Hey, y'all. Well, this is questions 117 through 18, the third answer book. Let's see here. Happy Mental Health Day. Okay. Alright, whatever. You too. Um, so, question 117, 1 through 18, 1 to 18, 118, 119 is a long one. So, it's going to be a while on that one. But the rest of them seem to be shorter than the third answer book we're done with. But anyway, so here we go. Question 117 says, shouldn't Daniel 3:25 read a son of the gods? Since Nebuchadnezzar was polytheistic, wouldn't he have related to multiple gods rather than a single god? No, the King James Bible has it exactly right. Daniel made it clear to all that while they have been while they may have been polytheistic, he and his three fellow Hebrew children were monotheistic. Daniel made this clear when he said the following in Daniel 2:28. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. And I dream of the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. The visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. You see how that rhymes? It's alliteration. King James Bible is notorious for that. Good for that. I don't think it's notorious. Then it's Nebuchadnezzar, and they even also call Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar, same thing. Thus Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom all knew that Daniel worshipped only one God, not many gods as they did. I'm going to say something on that. I'm going to go ahead and read the whole thing here, then I'm going to approach that for a second. It says every modern version deletes the capital letter Nebuchadnezzar's, or Nebuchadnezzar's, it says here, for reference to the God the Jewish children worship. Daniel 3:15 says, and who is that God, uppercase G, capital G, that shall deliver you out of my hands? The ASV uses lowercase. The ESV uses the lowercase. The NIV 2011 uses the lowercase. The NKJV uses the lowercase. Furthermore, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego drove this point home when Nebuchadnezzar taunted them and asked what God would deliver them if he threw them into the fiery furnace. They said, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. Daniel 3:17. Therefore, all knew that the four Hebrew children trusted and worshipped only one God. So when the king looked into the furnace, why would he think that he saw a son of the gods? He would say, lo, I see four men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Capital S, capital G, Daniel 3:25. This is no different from what Darius, also a polytheist, asked the morning after Daniel had been put into the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest, continually able to deliver thee from the lions? Daniel 6:20. Then he said, O king, live forever. He hath delivered us. But not only did Nebuchadnezzar, not Nebuchadnezzar at this point, Nebuchadnezzar, same thing again, acknowledged that the four Hebrew children worshiped one God, but he himself was also converted to believe in only one God, and that the only legitimate God was the God of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So it said four because of Daniel too. This is revealed by his marvelous declaration in Daniel 3:26-29. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, capital G, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth in the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God, capital G, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trust in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god, lowercase g, except their own God, capital G. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God, capital G, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and the houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God, capital G, that can deliver after this sort. Wouldn't that be pretty neat if that thing still existed, that decree? Before I close this section, could I ask you one question? Isn't it odd that every change made in the modern versions diminishes the power, authority, and worship of the God of the Bible, capital G? You will never find a change in a modern translation that increases a declaration of deity, honor, or worship. They always diminish and water down divine references to God and Jesus Christ. Doesn't that tell you who's behind the changes? Now, I said I was going to talk about that like in this case, Lucifer. We see here that many times Nebuchadnezzar, same thing, had defied God. He defied God. His grandson defied God, Belshazzar, and he defied God. And the writing was on the wall. The hand came and his knees knocked together. It scared him. That handwriting on the wall. Nebuchadnezzar himself defied God. He was, put out in the wilderness, and his hair grew and his nails grew like eagles, claws and stuff. He defied God, and many times, a few times. Darius did too. I don't think Satan is that crazy to defy God. He knows when he's been whooped. He knows that he can only do and say so many things. He has a limitation. He can deceive people, and just like he did with Eve, he can do all these other things that we see people have done. But he can't say, I shall exalt my throne above the stars of heaven, and this, that, and the other, that and the other, and I shall be like unto the Most High, and all that and the other. No, he ain't going to say that, because he knows. He has firsthand experience, firsthand knowledge. Same thing in Job. He can get people to do this and do that, and he can afflict people and all that and the other, but he ain't going to go beyond what God has allowed him to go. He ain't going to do it. Because you see later on in Job, he's not even saying anything anymore. He remains quiet. After he tried to get Job to deny the Lord, deny God, he failed. And then Job has his three friends in Elihu, and then you don't hear no more about Satan anymore. So Lucifer is not Satan. Lucifer is not crazy enough to defy God the way a king would, just like Nebuchadnezzar did. Nebuchadnezzar, in other words. He has done that. There are other kings that have done that. Belshazzar did it. I think that's Belshazzar. And I'm not talking about Daniel. I'm talking about Nebuchadnezzar's grandson. But they have these kings of Babylon, kings of Assyria have defied God. People do that today. I'm going to be king of heaven one day. These people who John Jones and stuff like that, Heaven's Gate stuff, these people who think they're messiahs and stuff, that they're Jesus Christ incarnate, and they're not. They think the kings and everything, that they're rulers, they're going to have all this, this community is going to be ruled by them, David Koresh and all that stuff. I mean, think about it. Lucifer is not Satan. Lucifer is a king, was a king, who said, I'm going to be pomp, I'm going to be big, and I'm going to be mighty. But it's the same king that was put into the ground with worms over him and everything. Satan ain't dead. Satan can live thousands of years. I mean, he can appear as an angel. He's not an angel. He's a cherubim. A carrying cherub. That's what it's called in the Bible. He's not cherubim, but he's cherub. So, anyway, this is not Satan. Lucifer is not Satan. It is a king running his mouth like Nebuchadnezzar did. Anyway, the last one before 119. Question 118. And the sirens that go with it. Why does the King James Bible incorrectly say Hebrew in Acts 26:14 when my New International Version says Aramaic? Because the King James Bible translators critically translated the Greek word in the verse. Unfortunately, the NIV reading is an accident. Acts 26:14 says, and when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me, and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. The Greek word in the verse is hebros, the word for Hebrew. In fact, there is no other translation option. Even if someone did know Greek, you could ask them what the Greek word hebros means, and by the very sound of it, they will correctly guess Hebrew. So how did the translators of the NIV make such a mistake as to render it Aramaic? As stated above, the NIV translation was neither an accident nor a mistake. It was intentional. The translators of the NIV and several other modern versions since intentionally inserted the word Aramaic into the verse. There was no error or misunderstanding. The Roman Catholic Church has for years claimed that Jesus spoke Aramaic rather than Hebrew. But I think you see when Paul in Acts, he said the Lord spoke to him in the Hebrew tongue. So that's another indicator. John Luke. Yeah, John Luke. This is the reason that Mel Gibson, who is a Roman Catholic, had Jesus and the Jews speaking Aramaic in his movie, The Passion. The reason that the Roman Catholic Church makes this false claim is because of what the Lord says in Matthew 16:18. And I say also unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. The Roman Catholic Church claims that Jesus was founding his church on Peter rather than himself, the rock. But they have a problem. In Greek, the words for Peter and rock are similar but not the same. The Greek word for Peter is Petros, while the Greek word for rock is Petra. But in Aramaic, they are the same word, Cephas. So it is vitally important to the Roman Catholic Church for Jesus to have been speaking Aramaic. Unfortunately, there is no historic evidence of this, but if they can't have a Bible that confirms that Aramaic was Christ's language, their point is proven. Before the NIV of 1973, no version inserted this false translation into any of the currencies of the Hebrews. But the translators of the NIV, knowing better, dishonestly ignored the Greek word in the text of every extant copy of the New Testament and corrected the Greek by inserting a word that God never intended to be in the text, thus confirming the legitimacy of Rome's false claim that there have been popes since the time of Peter, and that Peter's throne is the original since the time of Peter. That's the true church. No. Once they did this, they set a principle for other apostates to follow, That followed they did in 1995, and again in 2006. The contemporary English version followed a false translation of hebros. In 2007, the New English Translation slavishly followed suit. In 2011, the dishonest translators of the Common English Bible joined the parade with Jerome. When the original Amplified version was published in 1965, the translators did not assault truth by altering hebros to read Aramaic, but when the 2015 edition was published, those translators bowed their knees to the Pope and all that is unholy. By the way, these versions falsify the translation of hebros almost every time it appears in the New Testament. I say almost because every time hebros is used in reference to the Hebrew language, they insert the Roman Catholic fallacy. But what do they do when they are confronted with Paul's declaration of his Jewish pedigree in Philippians 3:5, where he declares he is an Hebrew of the Hebrews? Do they force Paul to claim that he is an Aramaic of the Aramaics? Let's see. NIV, Philippians 3:5, Hebrew of the Hebrews. CEV, a true Hebrew. NET Bible, Net Bible, Hebrews of the Hebrews. CEB Bible, Hebrews of the Hebrews. Amplified 2011, Hebrew of the Hebrews. That says nothing about Aramaic. Aram, that is Assyria. These correct translations of Hebrews are telling a telling indictment against the very versions they appear in, for they prove that these translators were neither innocent nor confused when they inserted Aramaic instead of the correct translation. They did it for a reason, and the Roman Catholic Church is the only beneficiary of their act of translational dishonesty. Wow. So, the next one is 119, talking about the ESV, and that's a big, long one. So, anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this, because I don't know when I'm going to start that one. That's a big, long one. Whew. That's a bunch of pages. But anyway, most of this book is done. Can't wait for answer book 4. I'm looking forward to it. Wish I could talk to Sam, but he's busy. Alright, well, y'all take care and God bless. Hope you enjoyed it, and y'all give the Lord the glory for everything. I'll see you later.